Ready? Okay. Well, we'll call this meeting to order for the September board meeting. Start with pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excellent. Secretary and roll call.
Okay. Dan Jansen,
Here.
Scott Duffner,
Here.
White Rock,
Here.
Mark Jerrick,
Here.
Preston Pike.
Here.
Excellent. All right, change. So new agenda look, if you had a minute, take a look at it. We moved a lot to the consent agenda, so that'll simply be a vote unless there was something that you found in there that we need to discuss or a mistake or something. So as you can see on the new agenda, so this is different from the one that was mailed out a little bit. We reorganized it for flow a little better. One thing has already been removed, and that's the transportation report. The Jubal's got some additional information for that. And so that would be one change to this agenda already. And then we also have a change that the ESD MOU will not be discussed tonight because Lang was unable to attend. So that will be a change. Was there anything else, Janet?
No,
Don't believe so.
those were predominant, the two changes.
Okay, so now is your chance to give us any input on changes to the agenda, or pull something out of that consent agenda. If we pull that out, it'll go to new business right below. So, and I do have one thing I would like to pull out already. It's for minutes from the August 11th. There was a mistake that we need to talk about.
Okay.
On that, was there anything else? Go to the order. Oh, we did move approval of the bills into that consent.
In the consent.
Yeah. So if there's any bills that you had specific questions about, we'll have to pull that out.
I don't know.
Okay, so I'm gonna get a motion to approve the agenda with those changes.
Yep, I'll move that we approve the agenda as modified.
I'll second it.
Right? Dwight made the motion, Mark second, all in favor, raise your hand. 5-0. Thank you. With that, public comment.
Heard of any?
Anything? No? Okay. Easy enough. So the consent agenda minus the minutes and the transportation report. Can I get a motion to accept that?
Yeah, I'll move that we accept the consent agenda as presented, with the exception of the transportation and the minutes portions.
Okay. There in a second.
Second that.
Perfect. All those in favor, raise your hand. 5-0. Thank you. Moved that right along, didn't we? All right, new business, transportation report. Jubal, thanks for turning that over to you.
So I just forgot to put that all together. It was the first week of school, so I put it all together today.
What were you doing? Oh,
I know. And so I got it all put together. It wasn't much. We only drove 653 miles and it was in the Dodge and our expedition. That was pretty much all that we did for driving this year, for going down to the fair, Dodge, and getting like concessions, supplies. Some of the things I put in last month's transportation report. One of them is that bus 18 is approved for being our activity bus. So it cannot be used for school bus routes because it is too old to meet our 2007 and newer emissions. But ODE has approved it that we can use it for doing athletic trips and field trips, as long as it's not doing day-to-day routes, picking up kids for school. And it's a really excellent bus, that runs great, has no emissions, and, because of how simplistic it is, it should last us a good long while of just doing sports trips. And then one of the other things I wanted to bring up was we still have our short little 20-passenger bus. And it's a 1996 with a 7.3 diesel Power Stroke engine in it. But the pack rats have moved in over the last 2, 3, maybe 4 years that it's just been sitting there. And it has some electrical gremlins because of that. One of the known ones is it doesn't have overdrive and it does not like to start at any temperature. You really have to work with it. So it's a bus that I would really recommend that we have it go on down the line. And just want to let you guys know that we'll probably be planning on selling it this year.
I think before you took over, we already approved to get rid of that bus. But that was during the transition with first student.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, there was some hemming and hawing of maybe as me coming in as a mechanic, maybe I could fix it. I think so. Maybe there was an approval. I don't remember hearing about that. But I do remember there was talk that we were probably going to get rid of it, but I was gonna look at it to see if it was worth going into, and it's not.
Okay.
So.
Really,
Yes.
pretty sure. We'll have to maybe dig up the motion on that or something, maybe.
To-
Or-
I don't even remember when it was, but I remember we voted on that to
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, I'll have to go look back.
move that away, but
our pre-emissions bus, with any of the recent changes with the EPA rollbacks things, is there any chance that any of those regulations will be rolled back for us as well, that could potentially become a viable bus for school transportation again?
So it could be a possibility, but I think that it is so slim, I'm not even going to even try betting on it. It may be something, since last year with our rotation, to maybe get another, actually, no, it would be this year that we would be on rotation to get another bus, if I remember correctly, because it was 2 years ago that we got our newest bus. And so this would be years from when we last received our last one. So we have a good fleet right now. But last year I also brought up that we have a 84 passenger bus. And it is the only one that is 84 passenger. And it's not that it's larger, it just has one extra row of seats. But our Christmas Valley route, it seems to fit a lot of the kids a whole lot more, and you have just that much more options how to locate kids, to keep problems down, keep kids spread out if you need to. Those 2 extra seats are extremely helpful in setting that up. And because if that bus goes down, then I don't have a bus that is an exact match to it. That would be the only thing that would be nice to change. It doesn't have to happen this year. So if it wasn't something that we wanted to pursue of getting a new bus this year, we don't have to. But if we had the funds to do it, I would recommend that we get one more big bus to keep up with our fleet.
How old's our 84 passenger?
It is our 2010 bus. So it is just before death emissions, but it still has the SCR stuff, so it still has the really smelly exhaust. But it's a good bus as of right now. It's had its issues in the past, but I think Chris Stephen actually did take care of a lot of those issues before he got it.
is there anything else on your other
I do not.
the bus projections? Is that all part of that? Okay. Any questions for Judah? Perfect. Do we have to accept that, Janet? Or is that just a report?
Yeah.
Don't need a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the August 25th. At least that's the number up there. The transportation report.
Second.
Just in a second, all those in favor? 5-0. Thank you. 5.2 IP annual report.
Okay, that one would be me. And you have some documents there. One's called the annual report, one's called the budget. It's 4.2. You'll see that on your list there. That is an annual report that I have to do to send in regarding our SIA grant and actually some kind of consolidated grants. There's high school success on there as well. Basically involves, we have 4 staff members that are either all or partially in that grant. So it's a pretty big grant for us. And also we, you can see on the budget page, you can ask Monica if you have any questions about that. But we also have on the annual report, you can just kind of see some of the things that I have to answer to on the, and you guys just have to know, these are nothing different than what we have been talking about. 5 goals, integrated grant targets that we've been talking about. Those are all there. Gosh, I'm getting a different page here. And we've talked about those many times before. Nothing has changed on that. We're sticking with that and doing it the way we've always done it. We're making good progress. And I sent the progress markers out late. That's kind of my fault. I thought they were attached to the annual report. They weren't. So you'll see on there, that's a much more detailed response on exactly what we're working on. Want to get down into the details of it. If you don't, it's not that important. It's a lot of, it's pretty detailed report, but the rest of it, no, you can see it right there. And I need you to look at it and ask me any questions. If you have any questions, Monica knows a bit because she prepares the budget part of it. So if there's any part of that you have any questions about, ask us, because I do need you to vote to approve that tonight. And also if there is any public comment, if anybody else has anything they want to comment or ask questions on, they're welcome to do so. And all that has to be noted in minutes that we have done so for this year. Any questions, anybody?
I do have a couple.
Okay.
I was reading through it.
Yep.
Looks like we've got the 2 different years on here, 23, 24, 24, 25.
Yep.
23, 24, 100% freshmen on track.
Mhm.
24, 25, 64.7%.
Yep.
Is that just a drop in a couple of students or what do we have there?
Yep, and Cameron, you might know more about
Yeah.
that too, because he tracks it more than I do, but it is. And that's one thing you have to understand about this, it's pretty volatile because of just the small number of kids we're dealing with. So that's part of it. Go ahead.
You gotta, and it's kind of goofy. It's to be on track, you have to have 6.25 credits. So if you fail a half semester of any 2 classes, you're not on track. So almost everyone that's off track this last year will be on track this year. And there's a couple students that are IEPs and will have different graduation requirements when it's all said and done. So pretty confident that they will graduate on time, just with the weird 6.25 and
Okay.
We don't have much margin for error. And it's,
I thought 2 of them also we received like in April
oh,
of the freshmen.
yeah.
right,
That always happens too and throws our results off.
because I can assure you that we do talk about freshmen on track at every single PLC meeting at the high school, middle school. PLC meeting, it's a standard, we get a printout every time, so we do pay attention to that, but sometimes things happen like that we really can't control the numbers much, to get people coming in, and we seem to get that every once in a while, somebody coming in with
Okay.
no credits and they're a junior
Handful of
kind of
credits.
situation. Or, you know, freshmen and they have nothing after their freshman year, so that just totally kind of wipes you out, so for lack of a better word. But anyway, and then the progress markers, the only other comment I would make on that, that's with the little tiny writing, you have to blow it way up to look at it. And then I tried to send it to you as a PDF so that when you could blow it up and look at it. But what I'd like you to notice for that is that when we started out in that lavender column way to the left, that's when we first started doing this. And then every so often when they ask us to, we have to reevaluate our progress in that. And I know you have it on, you have to look at it online. You have to be able to see it on there. Sorry.
He's got good eyes.
Oh, you got your glasses on. That works. Okay, good. Proud of you. I can't see it. But anyway, the one thing that I was noticing this time is that over time, we have really made some great improvements in every single area that we've been working on. So that big long list with the colored columns, progress marker page, when you get a minute, you can look that over. I'm really proud of the work that we have done. That's been on a school-wide basis there, and there are a lot of detailed points. And then I had to add some narrative responses at the end. That's what the longer columns with all the text is about. And so it kind of comes in two parts. So we have the annual report, which is basically those 5 goals that we always talk about, that our committee helps us establish, the progress markers, which are all of those in the weeds details about that, and then the budget, which, Monica, did you want to say anything about the budget? While we're talking about that, anybody have any questions about the budget? It's quite a bit of money.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Scott.
Up on the first part there still,
Okay.
like the third grade ELA proficiency,
Mhm.
29% to 0%.
Yep,
What's
that's
that
right.
mean?
Same thing. That means nobody passed last year, and we had 29%, which is still lower than what we want. And then went to 0 last year.
Okay, so
Nobody passed.
the number ahead of it's the previous year and then.
Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
that answers several questions on.
Yep. So that is another thing that we've already talked about as a staff, saying, here's where we are, here's where this went, here's where an area that we need to make improvement. Went over all this at art in service, so all the staff knows about this too. Kind of shows us our strengths and weaknesses, and also the volatility, we take that into account. We also have to make improvements where they're necessary and warranted. It's definitely one that is.
Any questions? Deep in thought? Or squinting to read it?
No, it's, you can zoom.
Yeah.
You have to zoom. Yeah, even as
That's
PDF,
all
you
right.
have to zoom. Yeah, you do.
Yeah, the third grade piece is concerning, but that might be a.
Yep.
Private conversation topic.
That's private conversation and we're on it.
Okay, so we'll need a motion to approve. Or not.
I'll move that we approve the IP annual report. As presented.
There's a second.
Second.
Mark, second. All those in favor, raise your hand.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Okay, and that's it on that. Thank you.
Excellent. Roof repair. So Barry,
All right,
is this Barry?
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I'm here to give you guys all the good news all the time.
Yeah, you cost us a lot of money.
I know, yeah, right.
Okay,
You and Jubal, so I have you go first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's bad to laugh, I guess.
Yeah,
A month or two ago, we had a leak in the valley here. And we had a roofer come out and look at it, kind of give us a quote, because you can just replace the valley of the roof. It's not really recommended, but it's possible to do. But when he was up there, they kind of walked the roof and looked at it. And the roof's gonna need to be replaced off the main building, probably within the next 3 years. Redmond School District just did a roof similar size. We're looking at 58,000 square feet total that needs replaced. Redmond School District, it's 68,800,000 just to replace that section of roof. They didn't go into a lot of detail on what was replaced or hard. There's certain areas where we could have to replace the plywood underlayment too in certain areas. That could increase the price. But also if we were looking to kind of stretch it out, and get 1 or 2 years, that price is gonna significantly go up. He said within the next couple of years, he would probably put it around $1 million project.
so,
Which part of the roof you talking about?
It would be the old gym and the old building. So
All the original.
all the new addition
Yeah.
obviously is fine, but everything else that, was original to our school.
Is that going back to another shingle system or?
Yeah, if it was metal, the guy just kind of laughed and shook his head. So like, I don't think we want to see that price. And then they actually suggested like a composite type shingle, but that price would be even more on top of that. They never said estimates price or anything. Redmond School District was the closest one they had to compare to, and that's where that figure.
And theirs was just shingles too, correct?
Yeah, it sounded like it was very, very similar to ours as far as pitch, everything. The only thing we had to take into consideration, that was, and then this is all.
Right,
out
here,
here.
right.
How many square feet again?
58,000 roughly.
Is that something that, that would go out to bid, right? So these guys,
You would probably need to hire a project manager for the whole process. Monica knows probably a little more about that than I do, or all the details that go into it. Yeah, but the person we actually contacted, we tried for probably 3-4 weeks to get someone to come out and look at it, couldn't find anyone. And his name's Chris McKay from HFK, on our
They did all the webinars that we have for the maintenance
road.
for Oregon, yeah.
Yeah. And
So
he
we
actually,
reached out to them.
and he actually called back, I emailed, called him back within an hour, and they had to come out here to look at it. So,
you know, $1 million job, I'd call back to.
yeah, that's right, yeah.
It's gonna be a process because of the amount of money that it's gonna take. That's what dictates that. Anything over $250,000, you have to go out on the sealed bid process, that whole deal. And, so, and our policy, I think I put that in, just attached it for you, just for your reference, that policy DJC applies. So you can look at that if you want details. And when Barry and Monica and I talked about this, we felt that since this was completely unexpected, we had no idea that the roof was that bad. People have been up there, everybody's told us it looked fine, Barry thought it looked fine, everything. But all of a sudden it's like not fine, it's leaking and we don't want it to cause any damage in here. So what we decided that to do was, for the three of us, it immediately ran straight to the top of our list of to-do things. And we don't have it in this year's budget. We would really like to get it in next year's budget so that we can do it in the summer. If we could get work scheduled in the summer. And what we're asking you guys to do is just give us permission to get started on that, even though we're going to be a little bit out of sync, but we want to kind of pursue and see if we can get a project manager located, if we can get, see what he can tell us about the bid process, how long that might take, kind of get started so that we are prepared to put it in for next year's budget. And that way we can get it done sometime in the summer. We're gonna have to go this winter with it. I don't wanna have to go another winter with it. So even though Barry says maybe, and they say maybe 3 years, I don't feel comfortable going another 3 years like that. And I don't think Barry does either. Yeah, so that's kind of where we are with it. Unless you guys have any other thoughts or better ideas on that.
And since up to this point, nobody said anything until this person looked at it, is it worth getting a second opinion?
It's leaking. Yeah, that's the thing. And
Yeah, that.
Well, I realize the valley is, but as far as the entire roof, like I really would need to replace the valley.
We could have someone else come out and look, Preston, but if you go out there and you look at the top of our old gym, it is very obvious that those shingles are trash. The fiberglass is showing it, it's horrible. If you start looking at the main building, the valley, you can really see it bad. If you start kind of walking out on the road, and you can kind of see areas where like corners are starting to erode, shingles are starting, there's a few missing, and you can just, when you look at it, get up there, you start thinking, you can tell it needs done. And we've kind of had a little bit of trouble figuring it out. The guy Garrett from, I can't remember the company's name now. He was looking at it, and they even pulled to see when the last time it was re-roofed. They couldn't find anything besides from the roof. So he was saying the 30-some-year-old roof looked in great shape, but Monica had found paperwork saying that he had some shingles replaced, but it almost sounded like we had some stuff replaced, didn't go over well. 5 years later, that same company came back out for half the price, priced even more. So, you know, take that. Yeah, yeah, and if even 15 years ago, if we got the whole thing for 106,000, that's not very much what we thought.
And I think the part that bothers me too, when we've talked about it, is We've had people up there, we've had people look, it isn't like we weren't paying attention to it. It was fine and then not fine. And if it went bad that fast, I'm just not comfortable. I'm worried about what it's gonna do.
Well, Scott
in
was
the
saying
future too.
that he was on the board the last time it was redone, maybe Dwight as well, and that was about 15 years ago, but it was only portions of,
It wasn't, we didn't, as far as I remember, we never did the gym. It was just the main building.
Okay.
So would that explain what you guys
That
found
would,
then?
that would explain some
Okay.
of what Garrett's calling out.
All right,
And it was,
but 15 years is about it.
Yeah.
We've been hit by lightning 3 times since then.
I know.
Hey, can we put that on a claim?
Yeah.
I wish.
Shoot, fire.
Yeah.
So 15 years ago, we did
give or
the
take,
Give or
the main building.
main building.
Think everything but the gym.
Yeah.
That would be,
You were there.
That $100,000 number is probably
It was
reasonable at that point.
For that
Right.
amount, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, we've got-
half of the building.
yeah, something like that.
So that's,
Okay.
that's kind of where we are. That's kind of what we'd like to do. If you guys are okay with that, and we thought we'll just walk through this process and,
So we'll give you the okay to talk with a potential general
mhm,
contractor or project manager.
mhm.
Then that they would start lining up potential bidders and then we would approve the final bid. Or
Yeah.
we would approve before that process.
Well, you have to, when you get those sealed bids, that would be just like what we did on this new edition. We did that twice for the GMC, the general contractor, GC, however you say that, CM, whatever. And then the, and then the architect did that sealed bid process twice. And then you just get a group of people together that read them,
Okay.
decide and all that. And
We're
so,
just doing project management.
yes, we just want to
Okay.
walk through it step by step. We just don't want to wait until next year budget season and go, hey, we need to do a new roof. We need to get ahead of this. And we also need, and we need to get it on their schedule. That's the thing.
Well, summer, yeah.
Yeah, so. Because
Okay.
anytime next summer would be fine. We just want to get it done next summer. Right, Barry? Isn't that what you said? Okay.
Fun.
Yeah. So Dwight and I were just discussing
More
that
discussion.
the last time that, we got it done, it was contractor out of either Prineville or, was it Prineville? Yeah. Yeah, like it's,
if the initial job was done 15 years ago, or if they came back and fixed it 15, because it sounds like the same company that originally put it on might have came back and fixed a bunch of stuff several years later.
no, it was a roof, re-roof.
Yeah, it was a tear down. Replace deal when he came. Yeah, I think there'd been some patchwork before that.
Gotcha. And that's kind of what it, and maybe maybe I misunderstood. But the way I had understood it is that it was, we might have had something done, but there's really, couldn't find that original.
No, I mean, the only thing I found was, we finally found, we went through AP checks. Some stuff there, but there was no like separate file in there that. So.
It was like, what we saw was like, it was almost like they came back and redid a bunch of stuff at half.
It said
not
half the price.
Half the price.
Right,
Some warranty work.
yeah,
Something
something.
really say.
Yeah, but that was.
If it was only 15 years ago, I mean, well, doing
That
the
was
products have
2011.
30-year warranty.
like a 30-year warranty that we could look into.
Oh, yeah, to figure out when it was.
Not on the gym part of it, but on.
No, but on the other
On
one,
the
okay, gym would be brand new, but if they put on 30-year product and it only lasted 15 years and we have to redo it, there could be some sort of warranty potential.
Wondering why they did it for half price. Why it says half price on it.
Do either one of you guys know if that company's still in business? Did we talk about that?
We just found that, paperwork in Friday.
What was the name of the company?
I don't even remember.
Chavez or
That sounds
That's pretty.
Does that
about
sound
right,
right?
yeah,
guy's name was Jerry.
yeah,
So I
like a
think,
3-man crew with a dog.
If you have a dog, that's.
On the river.
Yeah, we're getting some.
Dog is tagging shingles.
All right, so I think what Gail's asking for is a motion to give them the authority to go out and find a project manager to start digging into this. And I would imagine that project manager could answer some of that warranty information if there is any. I don't know if there is on commercial buildings or not, but maybe. And so that's kind of where we're at. Unless you got something else.
No, I got locked out.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm asking for.
So is there anyone interested in doing that?
Yeah, I move that we approve the initiation of the project management portion of the roofing project. Does that work?
I'll second that.
Sure.
Okay, is there any more last minute discussion?
Doesn't make sense to redo the gym if the roof's gonna leak.
No.
Pretty much.
Or anything else.
Okay,
Have a swim team.
all those in favor, raise your hand. Be 5-0, Janet.
Quick, thank you. And we will give you guys, when we get, we'll give you an update at every meeting, just so you kind of know.
Who was the second on that?
Dwight,
What was it?
Preston and Dwight.
Okay,
Okay, perfect.
we have 5.4 now. That's the approval of the revised minutes. And then the only thing I found, and it's more just to go through this process of how we pull stuff off that consent agenda. But on roll call, we have Jim Missile.
Oh,
And I know Jim Missile was not in attendance.
yeah.
So we probably need to change that to Mr. Flack.
If you're gonna pass this gym, you're gonna have to sag your bridges.
And bring rocks. And so this is open. If there was anything else anybody saw, we can take care of it all right now. But I didn't find anything else. Okay, we get a motion to accept the minutes from August 11th.
I'll move that we accept the August 11th minutes as revised.
Second.
Okay, properly moved and seconded, all in favor? 5-0. Thank you. Excellent. Action items, approve policy DJ.
Okay, you find that.
So a change from 10,000 to 15,000.
Yes, the change it's from 10 to 15, that's all that was.
Yep, I move that we adjust the amount on DJ, or yeah, the purchasing amount limitations from 10,000 to 15,000 on policy DJ.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? 5-0. Okay. Move on to 6.3 IP annual report. You already approved
Just
it.
did that. Yeah.
So,
Oh, that's on, that was on.
Oh, the upper
And
part
action item.
discussion and then the vote was down. I just fill it in as we go.
yeah, no, that's fine.
Okay,
Perfect. Set the first reading of board policies. Y'all got that email I sent you? Went through that webinar. I did have a couple of things to tell you about that. Find those notes. A lot of these don't apply to us, or we've shifted them in different places, but just real quickly, instructional materials, all it's asking for there is having a process to challenge content. So if a parent didn't like content of what's going on in instructional materials, they're going to add a request form. It has to be a formal request by that person that wants that removed, and then a committee makes that decision, not administration. So it has to be a committee group rather than just one or two people making that.
Is that a committee that we form ahead of time, or as it as the need right.
It just says that. I don't know what the actual policy, I didn't read the specifics if there was anything in there on
Is-
that, but. Usually, most schools, larger schools will have a curriculum council or a curriculum committee. And that would be where that would be done, but I don't believe we do.
We just don't. So probably we'd have to gather up, I would guess it would be the teacher, a couple admin, maybe one of you guys if you wanted to do it, but try to get 3 or 4 people on there. And see what we thought. But yeah, it just talks about, and other than that, there really was nothing. They just wanted to make sure too that you weren't leaving anyone out. Any of the protected races or classes or categories or anything, whatever you want to call that. Talked about instructional materials. And then get to the challenge part. Let's see, independently adopt. Supplemental materials, talked about library stuff. I don't know where you found a part about the, where you're reading exactly about the group.
That was in the webinar. That was what Spencer directly told
Okay,
us.
well, I'm trying to find where it,
So there was two must-haves. One was the formal request, one was the committee. So. I'm assuming that policies, if I read that right, we were just readopting that.
yeah,
If,
I'm just trying to find the language where you're talking about the review process and I'm not finding it in this one.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they also have some sort of stipulation around who you can what kind of representation you need on the committee. We've seen that before too, where you have to have
Mhm.
a committee of
like,
diverse
define the committee.
yeah, a committee of a diverse background.
Yeah, no. Nothing big stuff. We can.
Yeah, I don't see anything that's huge here. But they do, you're right, though, they do have a right to they have a right to question everything, so, yeah.
Another one was a virtual charter school cap. Cap is 3%. They were just amending some of those procedures. I didn't know if we had that, but I believe you said we did after that.
We do have that, and yes, we do have
Yeah.
that policy.
That was a readopt
Yep.
for us. So just a few amendments. Most everything on there, other than the ones I'm talking about, are just grammar, just some updates of dates or law. Nothing big changes. The concussion traumatic brain injury one, I guess House Bill 3007 changed that to be classroom time. So if a kid had a concussion, whether it was athletic based or not, it has nothing to do with the athletic policy and the protocol. It's now carries over to that classroom so that kid can have an accommodation plan basically created. So Education Equity Advisory Committee, we don't need that because we're part of the Lake County one.
Yep.
Is the way I understood that. So I will skip over all that stuff. Because they've made a lot of changes within that. Graduation requirements, the only change there was IB program, and we don't have an IB program, I'm assuming. Okay.
don't.
So that didn't do much for us. Student records changed a little bit. They want to limit what information can we share, like in directories, I'm assuming. Yearbooks, that kind of stuff, I don't know. But it also amends what needs to be in that permanent file for that student too, so it's changing the requirements there. So that affects pretty much everybody, but on the back end on the school board. School board stipends, this is just the policy to allow for school board stipends, which we voted down, so we don't have that. And then, of course, the personal electronic devices, which we're going to get to here in a minute. I did ask the question during this webinar about athletic travel and whether or not this had to apply to students on the buses for travel. And basically the answer was it's our decision as a school district. So Gail and I talked about it a little bit after this webinar. You know, it'd be something maybe even the coaches would make that decision. Something that regards. the policy's pretty, if you read through that, it's pretty vague. And so they're given a lot of latitude to, the school district to make up the rules around that. Although, you know, they have minimum, everything they say is what they said is minimum requirements. So that was good to hear, that there's some flexibility. There are some exemptions, and we'll talk about those exemptions here in a little bit. The other major one or major changes to one was the sick and military leave. They're just bumping up the days from 15 to 21 for military leave. So may affect us, I don't know. And then other than that, there's in that email I sent you about possible committee. And the only reason I threw that out there is because they did kind of walk through the proper steps for kind of going through this whole process of policy review. And the first one was the admin would present it, which Gail does. And then the local procedures vary. Many school districts have a committee that kind of siphons through this before it goes to board adoption. Or in our case right now, the superintendent's screening them. And so either of those are acceptable, and then the board adopts in the process that we're doing now. So the bad news is that there's more coming in the fall. Quite a few they kind of hinted at. And so this webinar I liked because it just pulled out the ones that we were going to have to deal with and took a lot of reading away from us. So
Yeah, great.
that's what I have on that. Anybody had any questions on any of the policies?
The only thing I wanted to say, Dan, in addition to that, was that several of the policies on that list, if you notice, because I sent you this whole page too, several were optional, and I usually don't adopt optional policies unless you guys ever see one, or I think there might be one there that we need. But in this case, that wasn't the case for me. The only other one, Dan mentioned the one on concussions. There are actually two policies, like a double policy there, and they just removed that double coding and put them all in one, which that removed the policy out of the books basically. So that works for me. So if you're confused with that, that's what happened there. So instead of it being JHCA/JHCB, now it's just JHCA. So that just simplifies it. So anyway.
Good.
And so are you guys going to, is that next question, do we want to review the cell phone policy before we vote to?
You guys want to pull that cell phone policy out or just doing all this one block?
Let's just approve this batch, then we can talk about cell phone policy.
We can do that too.
So we can approve the first reading, move on.
I've ever think about the cell phone policy. Is that correct? Or just-
I think so, because we're gonna do a provisional
Yeah.
acceptance on
Yeah.
that. And yeah, let's,
Maybe the first reading of
Yeah.
everything.
so if we can
Yeah.
approve the first reading of everything except for that cell phone portion, that'd be great.
Do we need to mention anything about not adopting the optional policies? Or not, because it's just.
Yeah, just as presented.
I would say.
As presented, yeah.
I move that we accept first reading of the August 2025 policies as presented.
Second it.
Okay, been moved and seconded. Last chance to talk about it. Seeing none, all in favor? 5-0. Awesome. Moving right along. Okay, cell phone policy.
Okay, so now we'll get into the part, I sent this to you separately, I just pulled it out to make it easier for you to look at. The page that looks like this is actually not any part of the policy, it's just my little notes that I shared with the staff and you guys as well, just kind of little comments that we needed, things we need to notice about it. There are two policies here actually, so when we talk about cell phone policies, the first one is JFCEB, and it is called Personal Electronic Devices, and that's the one that contains the meat of the Executive Order 25-09. And it just says basically that any personal electronic device, so it could be a watch, it could be any type of a Chromebook, tablet, iPad, whatever you want to call it, laptop, any device that will by any means portable electronically powered device is capable of making and receiving calls and text messages and accessing the internet independently from the school's infrastructure. That's the kicker there. Includes headphones, earbuds attached to the personal electronic devices. Does not include a laptop, computer, or other device required to support academic activities. So they can use something else if they're using it for academic purposes. That's what it says. So that's what we're looking at here. It also talks about where you can locate them. What, I'll just tell you what we've talked about as a staff, kind of what we'd like to start with is leaving them in their backpacks. They're allowed to do that according to this. They cannot have them on their person or in their clothes, pockets or anything. They have to be in a backpack, like for, and we're just basically talking about middle school, high school kids here, because cell phones at our school are not a problem at the elementary end of the building. They're just not. They have them at all. They're in their backpacks, turned off. We don't hear them, see them, just don't have them out. But at this end of the building, it could be, they could put them in their backpack, in their locker, or leave them in the car if they wanted to. There's about the 3 places. The reason we would rather have them keep them in their backpacks, give them a shot at that, is if we don't want the liability of having them on, because then we're responsible for theft, damage, any of that. I don't want to get into that. And it's just too problematic. So we also thought that might be a little bit of a carrot for them to, if they want to keep them in their possession, then okay, we don't want to see them. If you can't do that, then we'll take them, they'll go in the office, kind of like we've done in the past. That's very much the same. On the second page, it talks about consequences for this. Gets into first step. Teachers will give them a warning. They're fine doing that. They're going to make a note of it though, so that they know they have. Second instance, they will be confiscated the phone and brought to the office. Probably that'll be, Aaron will be getting in his steps today on that. He's doing that probably. He will take them to the office. Kid can pick them up at the end of the day. Third time, they go to the office, parents pick them up. Fourth time, we're going to go to me, that's beyond cell phone violations. You're getting into non-compliance, defiance, insubordination, all of that. So then I can jump up to the student conduct policy and we can apply different consequences. Because according to this policy and the executive order, you can't give any consequence that's going to take away any instructional time. So in school suspension, any of that, can't do that. But if I kick it into, not that I want to, and don't take this the wrong way, but if it's getting up into the fourth time and we're still having the same problem, I want to be able to impose a more serious consequence. And if I go under policy JFC, student conduct, I can do that. And to me, that's where it is at that point. It's not about a cell phone anymore. It's about you're not following the teacher's directions, and that's where we are with that. So those would kind of be the consequences. Parents would be advised of every step from like 2 on. The only thing they wouldn't is if a kid just gets a warning in class from a teacher, hey, your cell phone's out, put it away, that's your warning. Okay, done, right there. But from that point on, parents are going to be involved and advised of what their kid's status is. So that's kind of that. And what we decided to do then is we would like to start on this, and I'll get to the other one here in just a second. We would like to start on this probably about next Monday is what we talked about. We'd like a week to get word out to parents and say the school board has conditionally approved this policy. Here's what it is. Here's what it says. Post it on the website. I can put the changes in it. Here's what it is. If you have any questions, please call us because it's going to go into effect like next Monday, somewhere around in there. This is all just rough. You can change it if you want it. And then we would still take parent comments through the whole month because you guys can approve this finally the second time at the October meeting. So that would give us a month of implementation. We can try it. If we don't like it, we could change the language before you adopt it finally. We could, any parent input that somebody had a good comment, a better way to do things, and what we possibly thought of, that's kind of where we'd like to go with this. The only people who are exempt for that from this are ones who file this form, which is the JFCEBAR. That is a request for a personal electronic devices exception if they have a reason for it, like a medical reason. If they're diabetic and they have a glucose monitor in their arm, runs off their phone. that happens. It's pretty common these days to have that type of monitor. So that would be something Cameron does 504. He might have a person who, for some reason, needs to have a phone with them. Tammy might have a sped student that has the same reason. That would be on a case-by-case basis, and in order for us to grant that or take a look at it even, we have to fill this out. Doesn't mean we would grant it, but we would give them a way for us to take a look at it. The only thing I changed in here was, it's fine, the whole first page, but on the second page, I put that more information is needed. Please provide the requested information within 5 school days of this reconsideration notice. Because it had date in there, I didn't like date, I wanted the number of days instead. So anyway, that's that. And that would only be used, like I say, for probably just a very few students on campus. It'd be pretty limited in its use. But what are your thoughts on, and as far as what Dan hit on, the they can have them, just so you know, this is called a bell-to-bell ban. So from the first bell of school till the last bell of school, they are allowed to have them on the bus coming to school. They are allowed to have them on the bus going home. And there is nothing in this policy that prohibits us from having them on, allowing them on sports trips. So we would make that decision, and we've all talked about it. And I feel confident that our coaches can make that decision on a bus if they're problematic. Okay, they don't get to have their phone. Maybe it's an individual person, maybe it's the whole darn group, depends on the situation. But I would leave that up to them. I really haven't heard of any problems on the buses at this point in time. I don't really think we need to create any. So, and we have long bus rides, so we considered that as well, not just going across town like you are if you're in Portland. I think kids need to have something to do. That's just my opinion about it. So that's where we are with that. So
Otherwise, there will be horseplay.
long as they're appropriate, as long as they're appropriate. If they're not appropriate, then we handle it like we would any other time and have up to this point. They're not bringing their phone, you know, whatever.
Well, and I had parents concerned about, not being able to be able to get a hold of them when they're getting close to getting home
town.
from sporting events, so.
Mhm. Yeah.
Do we need to add anything about athletic trips in the policy itself or leave it open?
I say just leave it completely out,
Okay.
because the way I read this, it's not in there. There's nothing, there's not even any language to
Right.
revise.
A
So I
latitude the district is
yeah.
supposed to have.
think so. So I just say, leave it the way it is. I revised it, what we have to fit what we need. And my suggestion is just to go with it like that.
So this would be a provisionary or conditional acceptance, just to do the 1 month trial,
Mhm.
let them get going. And reality is we already have a cell phone policy. It's not that drastically different other than the consequences now and the storage.
Well, and this
Yeah.
gives our current policy some more teeth.
Correct.
The
Is
difference,
is lunchtime different though?
yes,
Yeah.
because
That would
right,
be a change.
it's actually a pretty big change for them, because right now all it says is you can't have it during class. Now you can't have it all day. They were pretty okay with not having it during class, and they could have it during breaks or lunch or whatever. But now they can't even do that. It's got to be put away the whole entire
Is this,
time.
I don't know, this doesn't affect us, but is this different for schools that have like an open campus where you're leaving the campus during lunch?
I believe it is, because you have to be under the direct supervision of the.
And that question
School.
did come up in that webinar about off campus, and it was,
Mhm.
once they're off campus, they can do whatever they want. So
But we're still closed, right? Nobody leaves
They're
during
closed.
lunch unless they've got some sort of. How,
Yeah.
It seems like that's gonna be a real sticking point
Mhm.
at lunch, because it's in my backpack
Mhm.
and I'm digging for my book while I'm texting my friend.
Yeah.
I mean, that's gonna happen, right?
Oh, it'll
It's gonna
happen.
it's gonna be tough monitoring.
It is.
I mean, how much time are we gonna spend
Yeah.
Well,
texting during lunch? I mean, it's.
well, unfortunately, the bell to bell is not negotiable because that's set by the state. So
we talked about this. We called a K-12 meeting this morning, rolled out certified this morning, and then I talked classified after that, or not classified, but yeah, classified. And that came up. Well, what about this and what about that? What about this scenario and this scenario, just like you just said? And I just said, catch who you get. You get. Because we can't follow them around everywhere. We can't put a bodyguard on every single. person,
Bathrooms
make
are gonna
sure.
be probably the worst spot. They're gonna take their backpacks into the bathrooms.
Yeah, it
We're
will,
not following them into the bathrooms.
yeah, no. So we just have to catch who we can
We need to
catch.
build more bathrooms because those stalls are gonna be, they're gonna be. Double huge.
We've got a roof to pay for.
You're one of those kids.
Yeah,
Made seats for the time rooms.
Months into it, maybe they'll just start to talk to each other.
Oh, yeah, there's some side.
I mean, there's the upside to all, but I like the overall idea. I'm just not sure that how you implement it.
It's gonna
Well-
be tough originally. I would think within 2 months though, there's gonna be your kids that fight it all year, but
it's exactly what we said this morning.
you're gonna have, most of them are gonna adapt to it pretty quickly and.
Yeah. And it is gonna be a fight, but like we talked about, it's, we got it, everybody has to hang tight in there and do it as best they can. Cause I told them, if you're overlooking it, you're condoning it and you're just throwing everybody else under the bus, trying to implement it. Where half of yarn, half of yarn, we're never gonna get, it's gonna be a fight all the time for everybody, so everybody has to hang in it. It will shake down to a few repeat offenders for sure.
Was there any conversation around staff using their phone?
Yes, we talked,
So,
there was,
I said I was willing to turn mine off and keep it in my office all day.
oh, never.
I should say-
I think they'd all rather that, but there's an authenticator to get into their grade book and their email
Yeah,
that they have to be.
well, there's a safety aspect too. They have to be able to call, so
all I told them was,
just,
you're just use yours as little as possible. If you have to use it, use it. Like Renee uses hers for some KCC stuff. What was the other, they gave another example this morning.
The authenticator.
The
was
authenticator.
Yeah, the dual factor
Authenticator.
authentication.
Dictionary.
Dictionary.com. Dictionary.com, that's what I was thinking of.
Playground days probably don't need to be on them
No.
the whole time they're out there.
No, they don't. No.
That's been a problem.
It has, and we realized that, and so we got everybody radios last year and the year before, and we have a whole bunch more radios that we're ordering too, encouraging them to use radios instead of that. The only thing that they ever need to pull their phone out or wear a watch is, what time is it? That's it. And if they have a watch, they don't even need to do that. They don't need their phone, so if they need radio.
Yeah.
So we're doing that, but we didn't have anybody object. I think the staff is in favor of getting started as quickly as possible. I know the ones that three of us have talked to really would just as soon get going on it. So that's why we're coming to you with this proposal. How about this?
The few people I've talked to about it have said the same thing. They said, why wait till January?
Yeah.
Then it's just gonna be more problematic.
yeah, they said on that webinar that, they estimate about 35% of the schools have already done it at the beginning
Yeah,
of the school.
just start the year that way.
Yep.
Yeah, some kind of a plan, so.
Yeah.
All right, is there a motion to allow these folks to move forward with a trial period?
So you need to accept the conditional or provide
Conditional.
conditional approval. I move that we provide conditional approval of the cell phone policy as presented for the month-long trial before full approval,
October.
October.
Yeah.
I'll second.
That's good.
Janet, you get all that? Need any clarification?
Okay, to conditionally approve the cell phone policy as presented for the month long.
Probably not do a month long, because I don't know exactly what time between.
Yeah,
our
just-
meetings.
Just say conditional approval.
Yeah.
Just conditionally approve as presented.
And who was the second on that? Mark?
Good,
So I've got another question.
yep.
If OSBA wrote this, it's probably good, but when I read it, it talks about it's describing the personal electronic device. And it lists all the things it can do.
Mhm.
So if I have a phone that does not connect to the internet, can I have it?
It still says makes phone calls, receive
But it
text messages.
doesn't ever say or, it just says and. But evidently that's good enough. Yep,
Yeah,
that, you guys read it.
yeah, you would be able to, because you
You're-
can still
you're fine.
text on it probably.
Okay.
Anything that you can make a phone. call,
I just,
text, yeah.
I must have read it upside down.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay. All those in favor, raise your hand. 5-0.
Okay.
Excellent.
Okay, thanks. Denise. And so next month I'll be back and we will then know whether we want to approve it as written or if we have any suggestions for change based on staff feedback parent feedback, anything like that. So hopefully next time,
Back on the agenda.
have it back on the agenda next time. Yes, thank you.
Okay, we've already approved the roof repair project.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
going backwards a hair. Are there any of our students on any programs where they have to have a dual factor authentication? Cause that could be a problem
The only
Not
thing
that
that
I'm aware of.
might be, would be like somebody on KCC, but
on a KCC.
At least when I was.
yeah, but that would be the only thing I could.
Cause we're like everything anymore has a dual factor authentication.
Yeah.
You don't use these.
I do it all day.
Yeah, that would be the only thing that possibly
But for that, we could go through, we could use that
the exception if.
JFCEBAR
Mhm.
And
form.
the seniors and the OSAC,
Oh,
I can't remember.
Those are things you'll get figured
Yeah,
out.
we're gonna let it happen in a hurry.
yeah,
So,
That's why we want to launch into it now and see.
you know, that's an easy, like if it's the OSAC, they're doing it one day, they can,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes. Mhm.
tomorrow you get to bring yourself home for this time.
Right.
okay, anything else? All right, well, number 7. 7.1 was cell phone policy. We got that handled, I think. So the handbook, got a few of the updates since we learned from a little bit of law about difference between K6 and
And that's the only thing I put those in there for, was to, the elementary handbook, middle school, high school handbook, is just to look at the pages where we talked about, where I added some language. It's towards the front. I think it's on page 10 in the elementary. I'm not sure where it is in the middle school handbook, middle school one. But I added some language, explicit language about the difference between suspending elementary kids like 5 and under, why you can't put the law in there. So they have bigger, bulkier sections on suspension and expulsion. So that parents understand the laws and rules that govern those two actions and why I can't do them at under 5th grade and under, and why we can at over. So, and that was one thing that you guys had asked us to do. So they're in both of the handbooks.
yeah, let me give a little preface to this. If you read the letter that I sent out about the hearing that we had at the last one, we listed about 5 or 6 things that we came up with that we wanted more better communication or twists. And so this is one of the responses, is to separate those handbooks out, K6, because of the different rules. And then, was there anything else on that?
No, not regarding that, not with regarding the
Regarding
handbooks,
those 5
no.
or 6 things, so.
No.
Okay. And so that was
Yes,
it on these, correct?
I just didn't pull it out. I just wanted you to see the whole handbook where it fit, but you don't have to read the whole handbook, just that section. That's it.
Very compelling, very good job.
Yes, good. Thank you.
Okay, any questions about that?
In reading that, the, one thing I read on the expulsion, it says 1 calendar year, not beyond the calendar year.
That's right.
So if you get in trouble, like say, just after Thanksgiving break and you're expelled, you can be back in January.
No, it's calendar year. It goes all the way to,
School calendar.
yes.
It says just calendar year in the handbook. So I don't know if it should say school calendar
I've always interpreted everybody I've ever worked with, a calendar year is like a whole calendar,
12 months.
12-month,
or, okay,
like a 12-month calendar.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you get suspended in Thanksgiving, you're out till Thanksgiving the next year.
gotcha.
Okay,
Or up to.
up to, not beyond. Yeah.
Anything else on that? 7.4 is board goals. This keeps showing up. Something I'm supposed to be doing with this? I wrote out some board goals.
Yeah.
I think we need to talk about them before we get too public with them, so. Maybe we will, can we do that?
Session or something.
And as a work session, maybe at the end, real quick?
Yeah.
We needed to do that in the agenda revision process.
I would just, you probably could just not really call a work session, I would just, other business.
Yeah,
Down towards
I'm
the end.
thinking, but
Okay,
then,
work goes on there.
let's do
Yeah.
that.
Okay,
That way we can get through these reports and the executive session
Okay.
and then most folks will probably leave after the exec session. We'll listen to this, so.
okay.
All right. So that's a change of the agenda, but
Yeah.
That's
I think we're okay with that. They're gonna turn me into the Farley Pro Police.
Me.
Okay, section 8, VP AD reports.
Yeah, all sports in full swing. Got, a cross-country meet this last Saturday in Bend. So we had a few that ran that event. I talked to Scott. He said that they didn't hit their PRs, but they all did a good job. So, and then we also volleyball tournament Saturday was really well to second at that tournament. Lost 2 in the finals. Now, it was a tournament at Eastland. They lost to Cross Hill Christian. Number 2 last year in 2A, I believe. And so they had, this was some really good competition there. A lot of private schools. I think I saw on there, there's about 10 private schools there. So, yeah, they had a good tournament, good start to the season. Football, rough game Saturday. Triangle Lake, I know they got a lot of seniors, I think 6 seniors. I was talking to their coach. And they've been playing together for quite a while, so pretty physical team. And they lost that game 51-0. So hopefully he'll bounce back against Mapleton this week. But and then middle school, yeah, going well. And football, they'll be playing middle school volleyball. Their first game is going to be Monday. And then middle school football's got a game at Mapleton on Saturday. So other than that, let's see anything else. As far as winter sports, we do have 3 positions to fill, all 3 boys basketball. So, that's obviously a concern. I've got a full schedule right now. I've got 24 games scheduled for boys basketball. I got 22 games for girls basketball. Obviously that's a concern for us is making sure we have enough boys to play. I know I talked to a couple of them today. Jebediah, I think, was one of them, and he said he's for sure playing, and his brother. There's just a couple I talked to, but so
So we need junior high assistant and head high school.
Yep, assistant and head high school and junior high. So all 3 of us. So both, yeah, I got all 3 resignations. So yeah, so hopefully those get posted here. That's calmed down for Janet. Hopefully it'll get posted here pretty soon and see what we get for applicants, but that's kind of where we're at with winter sports. We still have a head track position for spring sports. That's open. And we'll get that filled too. So that's kind of where we're at athletically. Any questions? If you guys know people out there, I want to apply for some positions.
Okay. Principal.
Just looking ahead, last week started off pretty good. Kids are starting to get acclimated, figure out where things are in the building. A lot of new faces. Been to most of the classrooms a couple times. Like I said, multiple new kids at both ends of the building. New staff are starting to get acclimated too and getting used to the kids. At fair, I got several compliments, not complaints, about our students' politeness, their hard work, mentorship of the younger club members and stuff. So that was nice to hear. A lot of kids saying thank you to adults in the barns, and so that was nice to hear. Just kind of looking ahead. We've got open house on the 25th, and then October 2nd, I'm working on getting another career connected field trip for the middle school kids to Keith Manufacturing and Madras and Composite Approach in Redmond. So getting them in some more of that stuff. And then we've got our SAT during the school day. The second year scheduled October 23rd, and that'll be SAT and the PSAT. So it seemed to work out pretty good last year. Keep that going and get everybody that's eligible for the daily to have an SAT score and actually fill out the one-page application.
A lot faster.
It is.
Spell everything somewhat correctly. Good.
Regarding fair, just, to officially thank all the staff that were involved down there. There was a lot of North Lake, both, staff from the school as well as just parents and stuff, heavily involved in volunteering and doing stuff. It felt like the, North Lake County Fair at times. So Cameron was doing stuff, Mark was doing stuff, Brandon was doing stuff, Mike House was doing stuff. Laura was different. I mean, those barns were full of North Lake people.
There's not many Lakeview people volunteering to move animals at dark 100 or at any time, quite honestly.
Yeah, Loading Pig was all North Lake.
I was gonna say, when we talked about at in-service time, because the pig group had to go down a little bit early. So I scheduled things so that they could go down early. It was quite a sizable group of people. That's fun. They're supporting kids and doing what they need to be doing, and just made sure all the trainees got scheduled before they left, and it worked out great. So, but I was pleased with the number of people. I down myself. It was good. So everybody's dragging this last week though.
Yeah, fair was.
That's okay.
Recovered.
They'll get recovered. Yeah. Still working on it though.
Okay. 8.3 Superintendent's Report. You have anything else? Good.
I just have three little things. The District Equity Committee that you mentioned earlier. I selected two names. I sent them in. We'll see if those two people are interested. She's going to contact them. There's Margie Colas. She's the new Mark Louie. And it's kind of her wheelhouse, her designated duty to get this equity committee going. Lane came up and talked to you guys all about that last year. Yes, we are in a consortium with Lake County, so we don't have to do our own. It's going to save us. We're going to send two people down rather than make the whole committee up ourselves. And basically, in case you forgot, it just says that the DEC can inform and advise their school board and superintendent on a number of topics, including underserved students, the educational equity of policy decisions, and the larger district-wide climate. And that's kind of about it. DECs are meant to supplement and support local leadership and understanding how their decisions have affected students, what they can do to make positive impacts. So that's why we want to do it as a group. And some other things, the committees now advise that the committees advise the superintendent, not you, the school board. Public meetings law, they are not subject to the public meeting law. And the superintendent selects the committee members. Board approval is no longer required, which is why she asked me for a couple of names. So I sent them down and we'll find out if they're willing to do that or not. She has created a schedule, so they have Zoom meetings, which is nice. They don't have to go in person to be easier. First meeting is October 1st and they go through May. So one a month, pretty much. So see if we can get people interested in that. If the names I submitted are not, we'll go to Plan B, find someone else. But anyway, that's about it. All I had to say on that, because that is finally coming due for those groups form. The coastal legislative update. Well, how many ways can I say I really don't know what's going on? Again, I know you're laughing because we talked about it. She doesn't know either. All I hear from Salem is how bad the budget outlook is because of the feds. Well, that's just really all I hear. My opinion is that historically for us, for schools, the feds only account for 11% of what we get as a school anyway. So the rest of it to me is on Oregon. That's just to be honest about it. They're going to have to figure out how to fix that problem. They're going to worry about the feds. They're only going to fix 11% of the problem from what I know. So I don't really know. They're still talking about, yep, there are gonna be cuts, but they have the rainy day fund and all their savings funds, education stability fund that they could use to give to schools should they need to do that. This report I'm reading comes from OSBA and it was just published a few days ago, September 3rd. And it also says that, yeah, are gonna be cuts, but we shouldn't panic yet. Because they need to use these other funds. I guess I doubt, I'll have to see it to believe it. If they use the Education and Stability Fund and Rainy Day Fund to actually go for schools, I just don't know if I trust them to spend it on schools. That's my thing. If they did, we'd probably be okay, but I don't know. So how I feel about that is, and I'll let Monica say her 2 cents here in a minute. My thing is that I don't want to completely panic about it, but I also think in going forward with our planning and budgeting, we need to be judicious about what we spend our money on. Just make sure I'd be a little more safe at this point in time. We were pretty cautious about how we budgeted for this year. I think we need to do the same thing going into next year, unless we get any news that differs significantly from what we're hearing today. That's just my opinion about that. Anything else you want to add, Monica?
No, the only grants we've heard anything on so far are the federal grants, which is kind of ironic. We haven't heard anything on the grants.
And in a couple of those grants, you got just slightly more.
Yeah, we did. We're up on those federal grants that I know about. I think 6,
Yeah, not a lot, but
not a lot, but at least we're not.
Just keep burning.
yeah,
Starting to feel like an ODOT situation here.
yeah.
Watch out for special
If I
session,
don't think
Thanksgiving.
any of those rainy day funds are gonna be left, they're gonna transfer the transportation before.
Exactly.
So they've never used them for education yet since they've started.
You got
That's
it.
right. That's exactly right. Yeah. So anyway,
Welcome to 1990.
right. So we're still listening, but I honestly don't know what to say other than that. Okay, we already talked about the handbook changes. The only other thing legislative worth mentioning was the cell phone bill. That's the biggest piece of legislation. Really hasn't been anything else significant. Since a closed session, we already kind of talked about those things, and those are being reflected in policy. And yes, I'm sure they are coming out with another big batch policy to reflect all those changes as well. So we'll dive into those. Luckily, this batch was easy. So that's all I have for superintendent report.
Good. Any questions for Spearman? Nothing. Quiet. With that, we're gonna shift gears to executive session. So thank you all for coming. You're welcome to come back after executive session. Grab a piece of pizza before you leave. We will close the meeting.
Thanks, Aaron. See you tomorrow.
Yes.
7:10, I believe,
Got a call again.
7:17. Sorry. Hey,
These kids don't.
Maybe on
realize
your
it's
cell
paid.
phone.
Yeah. They're so after the bell, you think about it. So. 4 PM. That would be amazing.
I'm offering to shut mine.
These kids are getting huge favor.
What's that?
These kids are getting a favor,
For what?
making them shut their phones off. Scott on it. Is he? Stemple, okay. Okay. This second. That seems.
Three Scots in the third.
Yeah.
All right, we'll resume our board meeting 7:42. And we're gonna be starting with board communication. Calendar of events. That just for,
Oh,
Just
just for your address.
Yeah, just events that are coming up.
just FYI, nothing
Yeah.
to talk about on that. Okay. Other business.
Okay, we forward goals.
So, work goals. So do we want to do a work session? Like at the next meeting? I saw it on there, so I jotted down some stuff. Do you?
Do we have our notes from, I feel like we talked about this last November.
We did in the strategic planning stuff, but I don't know if we ever got. This is for us, not for her.
Yeah, but I thought there was a section of that for us. It would just give us a starting.
So
I
I'm
could-
gonna research that a little bit, have something ready to go.
You had some ideas, you had some,
I just jotted down some stuff, what we should be doing or could be doing.
yeah, I can throw it out.
I thought maybe we should be more involved in staff appreciation, something like Christmas time or the appreciation day we cook for it or something. From the board standpoint. And then I thought we needed to be doing more professional development than ourselves on the board. So one thing I'm gonna do is try to go to the OSBA conference this year in Portland. And do that, do a training or something there. But they have a lot of webinar trainings as well that you can do. We all have to do the one within our term, so if we haven't done that one, we need to probably do it, or maybe all of us as a group just do it after a board meeting or a work session. So something about more professional development. I know that's a big thing at Midstate. We have to go to a lot of trainings and stuff for that. Something around community engagement, making sure board members are at sporting events and seen and, cause a lot of times parents come up, they have a chat with us about good things and it's a couple bad things, but at least it's communication. So at least they know who we are. I also had a bullet there, maybe we need to, and this is fitting after tonight, strategic budget forecasting. And it goes back to what I talked about, $1 million overhead, which is now $2 million overhead of projects that are going on that we should be figuring out how we're gonna do those capital projects in a forecast budget. Another goal I threw out there was policy review. And yeah, we're doing policy reviews, but if you've looked at our policies, and I think there's 208 or something of them, a lot of them, some of them like 2010, 2012. So we're waiting for OSBA to do the adoption period, and they're only going to do it if it triggers off of a new law or something of that nature. I think it looks terrible to have a policy on the books from 2012 and that we have not opened that policy and re-adopted it. You don't have to change it, you just go through a reading process and yeah, we saw it, we signed it up and do that. And that's, I've mentioned at Midstate, we do 2 adoptions every meeting and we have 2 readings at every meeting. So we're going through all those policies. And it's important because one thing, it refreshes them, make sure there's not dates or something out of whack or something's totally crazy that we don't like anymore. But it also educates the board as to what those policies are. And so that there's a policy about that, because I bet you, maybe Scott has, but I bet 208, I bet no one else has gone through it, one of them, right, and read it word for word. And so yeah, over time, it'll take 10 years or whatever, you'll get back to a new cycle on policies. That's just something that would be a strategy or a goal. And then I think somebody on the board should be in the rural caucus for OSBA and having that discussion there. They have that rural meeting and it's usually online, but just to give us some ideas of what other districts are going through with the small schools and rural school issues. One group that I'm going to go to, if I go to the OSBA meeting in November, I'm sure you guys have gotten the emails from the PRI group, Pacific Research Institute, I think is what they are. They have a 1-day meeting right before that. They pay for all your expenses, the hotel and everything to attend. It's for more conservative school board members, more conservative talk. So they're trying to get views and opinions before you go into that OSBA. It might have a little more liberal flair to it. And so there's more advocacy from kind of the conservative standpoint too. So I thought, what the heck, I'd listen to them and see what it's about. But that's coming up on the, I have those dates, but I'll get those dates too if you're interested in Portland. That brought me to the question. here in a minute, Janet. Don't let me forget to ask you a question, but those are kind of some thoughts I had about board goals.
With that, would we want to develop a policy that we have, you know, somebody from our board is on the rural caucus or somebody on our board is part of the ag committee, which like, you know, like you're on it, right, Scott? Yeah, like currently, but if Scott were to leave the board, then we would probably want to get somebody. Do we have those in a policy somewhere?
Not that I'm aware of,
Doubt a policy,
no.
I'm not sure we want a policy or then we're,
yeah,
half the time we're not compliant with our policy. But
Well, the point of it in policy would be that like if Scott leaves and then it would should remind us like, hey, we should get somebody on the ag.
we should have a list, I mean, whether it's policy or not, we had a list of.
Yeah,
There's some things we want to be.
we want to be involved in
Part of it.
at least half of these or 3/4 or all of them, whatever.
Yeah, the annual convention is November 6th through 8th.
yeah. I
So
think this meeting was
the other one was before it.
was the 5th, I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Well, and even if you have lists like, that would at least be helpful place to start. A step prior to putting it in policy if,
The policy thing's funny, you know, we talked about that at Mid-State because we require every board member, and we have 9, to get their CCI, which is 5 classes, their basic 5 classes. That's a lot. I mean, those are 1-day classes, that kind of stuff. I did it all in webinar in 1 week, just get it out of the way, and it was like torture. So we talked about then putting that in policy that every new board member has 2 years to get that. But then how do you enforce that if they don't, you know, or health or, you know, so it's sticky when you go down that policy road, but and I don't know, procedures, I think if we have board procedures, I have to think about it a little
Could
bit.
we, on the website, put who's involved in what, or like Scott's on the ag committee, the budget, you know, the ESD budget. So then if
Yeah.
somebody's looking to come on a board, then they're asking, well, what's this, this and this?
You know, secondary.
So then we just have it listed somewhere.
Maybe someone doesn't run for the board and then they come find out they gotta do this other stuff and they're like, well, wait a second, I didn't realize this was part of the,
You know,
so it kind of becomes an expectation.
yeah,
So really, is it kind of what you're talking about?
board expectations.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or board expectations, which is really a best practice. You maybe wouldn't, but I think expectations is a more professional word for it. Because if you think of it, if someone does go off, any one of you at some point in time, and whatever vacancy you leave, there might be some shifting depending on who comes on, what your interests are and all that. I think you should leave yourself open to that too. So you are doing what you are interested in and where you feel your skills are, knowledge, please.
Just a list of subcommittees and then who's on it.
yeah, if every board member had a committee assignment. You know,
Right.
so you have a committee assignment. Just professional development. Just kicking the can around.
What about adding, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I'm thinking when you're talking about assignments, I really like having a board member on an interview committee. We've done that this year and last, and it's been very successful. There've been a few times when I put the word out, none of you have been available to come, but it really does help have the board member.
Yeah,
on
I've
interview.
appreciated being able to be part of that.
Mhm.
I mean, it's,
You find it helpful too,
Yeah.
then, do I? Yeah, because I do. So that would be another position you could add to your list if someone was particularly interested.
There, I have it to White on the interview committees.
well, it doesn't have to be me, but it's.
Well, it seems to fit pretty well, it sounds.
Yeah,
Rotating member.
yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
Scott,
I
because,
think getting different people a feel.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
the one thing that you realize is, well, kind of real, you sit in your chair for a minute and hear what's available sometimes. I mean, this was 3 years ago.
Mhm.
There was some that sat through and like, wow, there's not a lot of availability,
right,
you know, I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, and luckily then there were others that sort
It's
of,
an easy committee decision when there's like one out.
but,
yeah. It's harder when you have more, but yeah. But you guys ultimately for certified staff approve those hires anyway. So I think that's,
It's good having.
Are there any other committees that we should have that we don't currently, like you mentioned, on the policy side, there's a lot of schools that have a policy committee.
Yeah.
I mean, could that be something that if we had a committee designated to go through that I don't know what the membership would need to look like, but it could save Gail time potentially as well, if she's not the one that's had to comb through all of them, if we had somebody that's maybe an admin, a staff member, a board member, and
Yeah, it's a tough one because they're so limited what you can do,
yeah.
you know. I don't know, I just think. Just sitting through that webinar, and luckily it was only an hour, and it was raining, so what else do I have to do? If it wasn't raining, I don't know if I could have sat through that, and that would have been more beneficial to the committee than reading them, I think.
Mhm.
It just laid it all out there. And it took 9 of them off the table, right off the bat. They just said, these have nothing except for a date change or something. Great, I don't have to read through that whole thing. Now, that defeats the purpose of reading and educating yourself. But when you have a dump of 17 or 40 or whatever we get, you're not educating yourself at that point. It's
No, you're too low, yeah.
yeah, it's too much, too fast. And so I don't know if a committee would work for that or not.
Or if we is there a webinar every time there's a dump like that?
They said that they're gonna do that. So
I'd like that. I'd watch that myself.
Do they record them? Do you
Yep.
have to watch it
Recorded,
live? Or can you?
yeah. Yeah, it's just if you want to ask questions, you can ask questions there live and they answer them right there. And there are some really dumb questions about the cell phone policy. That's about to shut it off. So.
Before I forget this, I gotta say this, or I'm gonna forget. You asked if there were any other committees that need a board member. The foundation could use one.
Oh, yeah.
The North Michigan Education Foundation. We talked about that. Gosh, Cameron, we only meet twice a year. We can meet more often if we need to, but at least I think once a year you have to, but we try to meet in April and October. And I want to say we tried to get someone a year or two ago, couldn't find anybody that was interested in doing it, or did we even look? We talked about it, I think.
Treasurer or something, was it?
I think it just as when Clayton Sharp went off the board,
Yeah, he was the
it
last
was
one.
never,
It's Clayton.
never replaced.
Right.
He's still on the board, but not as a board member,
Right.
Yeah.
a
So that-
school board.
Yes.
We don't have a designated spot for a school board member on that
No.
committee.
No, but we like to have one when we can get one. But we understand everybody's busy too, and we only meet a couple times a year.
Yeah.
Last time that group was really active, you guys know, is when we built the track.
Yeah.
So it's,
Speaking on that, sorry to interrupt, but
yeah, it's good.
what about is there any way that could be involved in the roof? Foundation? Yeah, I mean, the foundation's on the bottom of the roof, right? Right.
Thanks, Scott. Better keep moving.
I think we better keep moving, yeah.
Okay.
But as far as the policies, I don't know, you watch that, do you think it's quicker just to watch that video and we keep going the way we're going, or?
It just, when we got into the ones about, the athletes, trans athletes and there's some of those that, does that reflect our community values? Do we want to have a policy around that? And then what's the limitations of what we can do within the state law guidelines? That's the killer. And I appreciated the webinar because Spencer, who went through it all, said, look, if you don't agree with some of these, write your policy, send it to your school district lawyer and go that route. And then when we get it, we're still gonna probably have questions and we can all have that dialogue and get it straightened out. But it's less constricting on what power a school board has on adopting policies. However, if you're not consistent with state law, it puts her in a bind. And it opens up a challenge to someone who wants to challenge that. I mean, they can, and state law is going to supersede your policy. It doesn't matter. But do we have enough policies that need, I guess, that community review that to make sure it fits within our community? And I don't know if we do. They're kind of stale and long and too exciting, but
Do we have it? So this is. Probably I should read them all as you suggested, but do we have very many policies that are? Policies that previous boards have implemented that are not part of state recommendation? Maybe we start with reviewing those.
Well, I think every single policy we have is written because of a state rule or law.
Gotcha. We don't have anything that's just like.
No, not,
Partial.
'cause it's
no,
their database, right?
It is. and
Just have a section of their database with their same.
yeah. And going on what Dan was saying a little bit ago is when you were talking about changing the policies, like going through them a couple at a time or going through the old ones. The reason they're old is because no law has changed to prompt an update.
Right.
We can go through them and I agree with what you're saying. I do think to me, to be honest with you, to me, it's kind of embarrassing when I pull up a policy and it says 2010, 12. 3 or 4 of these in this batch we just approved were old like that. And I was glad to see that we were getting the updates going through there. They need to be updated more often, and you can take them and just take another look. You can review them, you can adopt them, and at least put the current date on them, even if the laws haven't changed. They're not going to send through updates unless the laws have changed. That's it. And so I don't see any reason to, you can review them, and I think we should, but you really can't do a whole lot about it, and they need to be updated to reflect the law. They have to be. Otherwise, like Dan said, then we're in a jam legally. And I guess as far as I see it, if you want to look at it this way, you guys you're the board, but you're also the representatives of the community too. So I expect you and like it when you bring the opinion of community members or what you think would be a fair representation of community members and how they would feel about it. You know, that's who you are too. So I don't think that I don't feel that we don't have a community voice on here. This is how I look at it too.
So
So
to refocus back to board goals. What do you want to do with that? I shared my idea, my 6 thoughts. We want to try to pin some sort of a not policy, but expectations, I guess, what we came up with. Of the board. What do you think?
It's raining outside.
Shocking.
Yeah.
I was supposed to. Is,
Yes.
what else, or just do a work session and knock it out?
I think work session, just see if we can knock it out. Come up with 2-3 goals to get there
And
and maybe, maybe goals, but some expectations such as committees or where we should be kind of represented for the school.
Yeah, maybe try to have 3 goals and then an expectations list.
That's one of the goals.
what's that?
That's one of the goals. Just come up with expectations.
Yeah.
We just need 2 more goals. Yeah, I'm serious. That's a very big deal.
Okay.
Work
session in October or November? October, messy, or we might be doing hay.
Yeah.
Probably will be looking at the weather.
Yeah,
Usually, it's messy.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we're probably looking at postponing that till November-ish. We'll revisit in November. How about that?
Or unless we just late October. When's the October meeting?
13th.
We can see how things look at that point. And
Yeah. And I can get this kind of written up with some of what we talked about.
maybe for the 13th meeting on the agenda, have a scheduled work session as a topic.
Yeah, and then we can.
If we keep talking about this every month, we'll get it hammered out eventually. Well, James, bring up the weather.
Well, or
If we just have our agenda item to schedule, because then we'll see where our farmers are at with their
It's raining.
with their snowed on moldy hay.
So we're gonna show them.
Yeah, they're gonna throw it right now, so we can.
Yeah.
It's in the.
Yesterday.
Okay.
Right.
guys get rummy at 8.
Yeah.
Then we're done. Next meeting, future agenda items, October 13th, 6 PM right here. Something about Starlink backup, discussing Starlink backup.
Yeah, Nick just wanted you guys to have that information. There was so much on the agenda tonight that, and so many moving pieces that I'm like, if you want, because he kind of was busy, I was like, if you want, just come and present it in October.
Perfect.
And so he says, well, I've already given you the information, so I said, I'll give it to the board. They can read over it
Wow.
and I'll put
I
it
mean,
on.
that's forward thinking. Lake County hasn't even figured that one out yet. So that's good.
But basically, he just wants to take a look at possibly using Starlink as our backup internet. It's gone out once or twice this summer and it's been a big pain.
Yeah.
So he just wants to explore that option,
All right.
I think.
Good enough.
If we go down that road with them, I don't know what well, I think it's not, well, commercial may be different anyway. I met somebody recently that they actually got the mobile Starlink and put it on their pickup because the cell service has been so bad out here. And they love it because they can put it on their pickup and they've got service all the way to Pine, all the way to Klamath, across Beaver Marsh. And it would be interesting for some of our activities buses. It'd be a safety feature if you had connectivity all the way to,
Sure, get a safety grant or something for that.
yeah, going across their flat. If you had Starlink on there, you could reach somebody even if you get a flat tire in the.
Okay.
I want to say as a private citizen, it's like $80 a month. It's like from a school standpoint, that's.
We just don't want to bolt it to our roof because
Are you writing that down, Janet?
You get extra service.
Just maybe examine adding the mobile to buses.
yeah,
Yeah, that'll prompt us. Okay.
Yeah, and I'll let Nick know and he can kind of look into that too.
Yeah, $1 million for this roofing project. What if we just cover it in solar panels? So we don't have to pay Midstate so much for electricity.
Yeah, that's.
That's been done
Get a
before.
grant for that.
Yeah, you can probably get a grant for it.
That's been done.
cover Starlink panels.
Yeah.
Too.
Really have some leaks.
All right, anything else for the good?
Lane will be on for the
Yep.
MOU.
Got him.
You have him.
Oh,
Anything
yeah,
else,
I
Janet?
Put him back on the future agenda, okay.
Yeah. That was the only one we took off. We got Jubal,
So it's,
so.
Janet, this really isn't a school board question, but I'm gonna need help getting this computer to not shut off. And then I have to log in with my,
Yeah.
Longer,
10 minutes.
longer sleep periods.
So
Right.
yes, reset the sleep period.
I need that on.
Another thing that could help us budget wise with some of the maintenance type stuff. I was talking to Kevin Lehman.
Okay,
And he was talking about, for like the rural fire district, for some of the dozers they got, he was able to do. Like the government. Rick was something, I don't know, like if the government's already bought a piece of equipment, if another government entity can take it over.
right.
You can get it for a significantly for cost or maybe even free, and. ODOT sells snowplows every year. Maybe we could find a way to get a cheap ODOT retired snowplow for our parking lot and have a sander on the back of it too.
Yes. Is that this? Is that the same as that where the government surplus?
So that's where citizens can bid on stuff, but there's a deal where someone, about if the government's already paid for it, like another government entity shouldn't have to pay for it again.
Right,
So you just put in a repurposing fee essentially.
okay,
And I don't know how you get on a list for that.
that's new to me.
Maybe Barry could do some research on it and,
Maybe even Monica.
or, yeah, maybe Monica.
They
to-
talked to Kevin.
I think there's still some fees associated, but it sounded like it was a potentially an affordable option for us to get a retired ODOT snowplow that would probably last us for 30 years.
That's all we need. We don't do brand new.
Yeah, and it'd have a sander, so we could actually sand our hill. It's not like species.
Yeah, okay.
Yes,
And she had to keep it dry.
Yeah.
I do remember that one additional
Oh,
thing. Is there money for directors to attend professional development conferences? I forgot to look in the budget.
there has been in the
There
past,
has been in the past. Yeah.
yes, and
it'd be under our Art board,
I will grab that right now.
Go, yes. And remember when we had this conversation about teachers going, might have been during negotiations and we talked about, and I said, I always budget money. It's possible that you could use some of that as well. It's in my superintendent budget. It could go for it. I spend it on any teacher who an opportunity comes up that they didn't know about. It could be used for you guys as well, I would think.
Well, opportunities away from teachers though.
If it's not being used, that's what I'm saying.
A lot of the teachers PD right now is going through the rural collapse.
It is. I just put it in there for unexpected stuff they didn't budget for because I don't want to tell them no if it's something really great. But like last year, I know we didn't use it all.
You could do like 15 square foot of roofing maybe.
Maybe. We might have to rob my whole PD budget to,
Every kid could just do their own square.
yeah.
We'd be done.
Let's get it. I would be curious to know what the prices for 10 would be. I'm sure it'd be more, but if it's a
It'd be way to go out here.
lifetime roof, basically, because of our wind issues and everything.
last time, yeah, the guys didn't like the idea of the metal roof.
There's so many holes with
Well-
expansion, that's as big as the runs were, I think was.
And with
concern of a lot
all,
of
everything
schools.
sitting on, that we got on the top of the house. A lot of penetration everywhere. All
What are-
the, yeah.
What are those, did he mention the composite roof?
You just didn't know what the price difference was.
Right, they kind of look like shingles, right? But there's.
Yeah, they've got a longer lifespan, but I've seen some of them that are actually like a tile that they have to cut with like a hot saw.
Oh,
They're expensive, but they're supposed to be like 100, like it's a roof that'll outlast your house will fall down before it's got an issue.
So it looks like reimbursable travel and meals, there's about 2,000 in there. And then dues and fees. 5,000, I don't know. Well, some of that we pay for, the policy update thing.
mhm.
2,000 is barely gonna cover the
There's-
meals.
There's a pretty good chunk of services.
Inflation.
I know, there should be.
Other professional services, 2,000. Consumables, 15. So,
Well, I'll tell you what, to go to that OSBA conference, it's expensive, really expensive.
Your hotel in Portland and
Meals. Yep. Like,
but there is some.
but there is some,
I
yeah.
was just curious if that was one of our
There is
particles. We
some,
kind of need to know if there's money there or not.
I mean,
Support it.
take the expedition and then I think this
Yeah.
budget item would work.
Mhm.
If they took the expedition.
And I don't,
I'd recommend a couple guys go. I mean,
yeah,
Scott's been there, I've been there. And it was,
A lot of years ago.
yeah, a little while, so can't guarantee.
Okay.
They used to do a good job.
Well, I'm hoping to. That's my goal.
when is it?
November 6th to 8th, I believe it said.
8th,
Right.
PRI one is,
Usually,
Is that on the 5th?
it's usually leading into a weekend. So I go to the port secretary's part every other year.
conference is the 5th, yeah.
Yeah.
5th.
Sounds like I'll be in LaGrange at the state volleyball tournament,
Yeah, after election day.
or I'll be in trouble.
Oh,
We're gonna be doing what they do.
that's my goal anyway. Anything else? Anybody else? Seeing none, I'll move to adjourn 8:11.
Thank you guys very much.
You.
Yeah.
So I have to ask, did you guys color coordinate? Hey, you guys already talked about that?
Yeah.
Run the page.
Mark.
I had to rush back home. I
Absolutely
had 5 minutes
meaningful.
of change to do it.
Those are